Welcome everybody to Everything Black. I'm Frank, your host. I just want to talk about and useless to black people. Black women, we all know that they're the most educated people in America. The women, black women. But yet, there has been no progress for black people. So basically, they're useless. I just want to talk about not just the women educated, talking about the men educated, black educated men, the black educated women, the sororities, the black caucus, the NAACP, everything that's supposed to be for us. That's not for us. I mean, we don't see it, we don't feel it. It's like they're all about themselves, they don't care about us. So we got all these educated sisters making money, smiling, getting it, but get in a situation position where they just turn their back on the black community. Not just them, but the men do it too. So politics, education, religion, all these things play together to destroy us. It's a game being played on us to destroy us. And I'm gonna give y'all a little taste of Black Authority. This is an oldie but goodie. He was talking about the sororities. I'm just gonna give you a little taste of it. Y'all need to watch the whole video. If you go to the Black Authority channel, you can see the whole video. Y'all need to study this video. Put it in your hearts and souls, because these people who we praise, they're beautiful. They're very beautiful women, but they don't do anything for black people. They're very intelligent women, but they don't do anything for the group, for the black masses, to give us a step up or a boost or help. They get their position and they forget. They join the white supremacist and his agenda. They don't give a damn about a black agenda. You can talk to the average black person now. They don't give a damn about no black agenda. They just trying to get a position so they can eat and look down on you and ask you why you don't have it. But I'm gonna give you a little taste of the Black Authority.
Of people out there promoting our interests. But that's the problem. The so-called Divine Nine, the fraternities, the sororities, and I will throw in there the HBCUs, their mission statement, their purpose is not to serve black people. Their mission statement, their purpose is to serve. They do not wish or even desire to establish anything among black people. Their goal is to try to get as high a position within the dominant society, so that they can sit up here and go behind our backs and say, well, you see, if you throw a bit more money than me, I'll calm them Negroes down.
So you see why it's important for you guys to get over there to the Black Authority channel. Find this video about the sororities and the fraternities, and you will see how much they care for us. If you watch that whole video, you'll see how much they care for us. And years ago, Dr. King was trying to tell us about these clergy, how if they didn't get themselves in order, Black people were going to be in a position to not respect them. Black people were going to be in a position where we didn't care about religion anymore. We were going to be in a position to ignore the Black church. Dr. King was letting them know that years ago, and he wrote a letter. And I want to try to get a little bit of this letter and hear what he said to him.
A recent statement calling my present activities unwise and untimely. Seldom do I pause to answer criticism of my work. If I sought to answer all the criticism that cross my desk,
YouTube.
my second the course of the day, and I would have no time for constructive work. Here, when criticisms are your statement ends, I think I should indicate why I am here in Birmingham, since you have been influenced by the view which argues coming in leadership conference, an organization operating in every southern state with headquarters across the South. We shared months ago, the affiliate here in Birmingham asked us to be on call to engage in a non-violent direct action program if such were deemed necessary. We readily consented, and when the hour came, we lived up to our promise. So I, along with several members of am here because I was invited here. I am here because I have organizational ties here. But more basically, I'm in Birmingham because injustice is here. Just as the prophets of the 8th century BC left their village and the boundaries, and just as the Apostle Paul left his village of Tarsus and carried the gospel across the world, so am I compelled to carry the gospel of freedom beyond my own hometown. Like Paul, I must constantly respond interrelatedness in communities and states, like Dubai and Atlanta, and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. You deplore the demonstration. Your statement, I'm sorry to say, fails to express a similar concern for the conditions that brought about the demonstrations. I'm sure that none of you would want to rest content with a superficial kind of social analysis. In any nonviolent campaign, there are 4 basic steps. Injustices exist: negotiation, self-purification, and direct action. We have gone through all these in again the fact that racial engulfed-seated city in the United States. Those have experienced grossly unjust treatment in the court. There have been more unsolved bombings of Negro homes. These are the hard, brutal basis, but the latter consistently refused to engage in good faith negotiation. Then last September came the opportunity to talk with leaders of Birmingham's economic community. On the basis of these promised leaders of the Alabama Christian.
Let me kind of move this up a little more to where y'all need to hear it, where he's talking to the clergy. This whole letter is him talking to the church. And he basically letting them know that if they don't get rid of white supremacy or change or be involved in the process of justice, then the church will be non-involved down the road. Nobody will be seeking clergy for justice anymore. We won't look to them to stand out and fight for us for justice like they look to them today.
But you are a Negro, living constantly at tiptoe stands, never quite knowing what to expect next, and are plagued with inner fears and outer resentments. When you are forever fighting a degrading and degenerating sense of nobodiness, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait. There comes a time when the cup of endurance runs over, and men are no longer willing to be plunged into the abyss of despair. I hope, sirs, you can understand our legitimate and unavoidable impatience. You express a great deal of anxiety over our willingness to break laws. This is certainly a legitimate concern. Since we so diligently urge people to obey the Supreme Court's decision of 1954, outlawing segregation in the public schools, at first glance it may seem rather paradoxical for us consciously to break laws. One may well ask, how can you advocate breaking some laws and obeying others? The answer lies in the fact that there are 2 types of laws: just and unjust. I would be the first to advocate obeying just laws. One has not only a legal but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. I would agree with St. Augustine that an unjust law is no law at all. Now, what is the difference between the two? How does one determine whether the law is just or unjust? A just law is a man-made code that squares with the moral law of the law of God. An unjust law is a code that is out of harmony with the moral law. To put it in the terms of St. Thomas Aquinas, an unjust law is a human law that is not rooted in eternal and natural law. Any law that uplifts human personality is just. Any law that degrades human personality is unjust. All segregation statutes are unjust because segregation distorts the soul and damages the personality. It gives the segregator a false sense of superiority and the segregated a false sense of inferiority. Segregation, to use the terminology of the Jewish philosopher Martin Buber, substitutes an I-it relationship for an I-thou relationship and ends up relegating persons to the status of things.
So you can see that Dr. King was trying to educate the clergy on how if they don't fight and stand up for justice for Black people, then the church would no longer be relevant. So let's go ahead and get to these educated Negroes who betray us and they're useless to Black people. So let's go here. This was a while back ago when Kamala Harris was just a DA and Jamal Brown was trying to be a new preacher. And they was talking about the conditions and how to get young people to look at the church as a way to bring about justice and to get the young Black people to trust the church again. But, the youngsters are not trying to hear this. The Black men are not trying to hear this. But here you go. I'm going to let you hear it.
This next question or two, I'm looking at Reverend Jamal Harrison Bryant, who I want to come to first, I guess. And I'm looking at Kamala Harris, the DA in San Francisco. I'm thinking of all these issues that have been discussed today, and we've heard conversations about the church ad nauseum, legitimately and necessarily, but ad nauseum about the role of the church. I want to ask specifically about whether or not we believe that this particular generation embraces the kind of faith tradition that everybody else heretofore today, who happens to be older, has discussed. Because if we believe what we have heard, that's going to have to be Reverend Harrison Bryant, at the center of any kind of engagement that we can talk young people into where the covenant is concerned. Dr. King was a great civil rights leader, but he would even tell you he was first a Black preacher, and he never got away from that faith tradition. So one, how do we intertwine that faith tradition? Is it even possible? Does this generation care about that, connected much less to something like a covenant, if that question makes sense? And then after that, I want to hear from Kamala Harris, the DA in San Francisco, because the opposite end of that spectrum of church and freedom and going to heaven and living your life on your own terms is being locked up for life and not having the freedom to express, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm trying to figure out how it is that we advance notions like these when in this particular text, we read facts in the covenant about the criminal justice system that are not at all encouraging. Madam DA, we'll start with Reverend Harrison Bryant.
Thank you, Tavis, for this opportunity. I don't think it's an accident that Dr. Lowry said that this is not a contract, but it's a covenant. And for those of us who ascribe to Christendom, understand that the Bible is our covenant. Panel one, to extend the metaphor, panel one was the Old Testament, and panel two is the New Testament. And what you have to understand is that there is a continuation that the church has to now follow. The 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s led us to salvation, but did not really take us to liberation. And we can't do half the job. Moses' job would have been incomplete by just putting blood on the door. That was salvation. But to take them across the Red Sea was liberation. And so now the job of the church is not just to get people saved, but now that I have you saved, I have to make sure that you're educated, that you're homeowners, that you in fact are making a positive impact in the community. Dick Gregory said in the early 1970s that when black people are in trouble, there are two names that they call, Jesus and the NAACP. But now we're living in a generation, and I'm pastoring a generation that doesn't go to church and are not members of the NAACP. And so what we have to deal with in this covenant is how do we go into our new covenant when it is that we've got the old covenant.
See, the question is, why are the young generation not listening to these folks? Because like he just said, he's about getting people educated, getting people this, getting people that to be better citizens. Not to bring about justice for these people, but just to bring about them being obedient to the system. So you got to listen to people when they talk. He never said anything about justice. And when they talk about liberating is justice, getting free. Not being under no system of oppression. So we're going to move on from him. I'm going to try to speed it up here to see what Kamala said back then. Let's see if I can get it found on here. Look like he did damn near all the talking. Okay, here we go. This Kamala time.
Implement this covenant the way these numbers are going.
The covenant, first of all, Tavis, I want to thank you for what you've done in bringing us together and convening us. We've had a lot of time waiting to come out to talk with each other and bond, and it's an incredible group. The criminal justice system is not working for the African American community. I can tell you as the chief law enforcement officer for a major city in this country that it is not working. We see that in the statistics that you've outlined. 2 million people are in the prison system in this country. Over 40% are African American, in spite of the fact that we only constitute 13% of the general population. It's not working. It's not working when we recognize that African American men, the leading cause of their death is homicide. We are overly represented both as victims and as defendants and as witnesses. Our communities suffer because our babies hear the gunfire every night. So the 7-year-old has post-traumatic stress disorder and cannot go to school the next day and learn. The criminal justice system is not working for us. What I think we have failed to do as a community, however, is own this issue of law enforcement. We talk about these statistics in the context always of it is unfair, it's morally incorrect. Maybe we have learned that from the church. It is morally incorrect, but nobody cares about that. You can look at Katrina. Nobody cares about the fact that we've got a bunch of young black and brown men in prison. That argument is not working. What I suggest we do as African Americans is own this issue in law enforcement and then define it in the way that works for us, because it is a myth to say that African Americans don't want law enforcement. We do. We want our grandmothers to be able to walk to church and be safe. We want our babies to be able to walk to the park and be safe. What we don't want is racial profiling. What we don't want is excessive force. That's right. What we don't want is to have our civil liberties and civil rights be stripped. But we do want law enforcement. So let's define it in.
So you see, she didn't say nothing about getting rid of the system. She's saying we don't want y'all to be against law enforcement. We need to take a different view at law enforcement. You want your grandma to be safe to walk to the park, but she don't say what caused these law enforcement. Why do the black people not like the law enforcement? Apparently she don't know anything about getting brutalized unjustly, getting bit by dogs, you know, how police beat you until you're senseless for no reason at all, getting pulled over for no reason at all. She's not talking anything. I mean, she brushes over brutality, but she talk like we the reason that this is happening. This lady is not FBA. This lady is a immigrant. This lady don't care about black people. This lady is all against you. You can tell the way she was sitting there, she was out of place. And the black man just shaking her, yeah, you right. Okay. This lady just showed you an example of how she took the picture off us and put it on the side of the white supremacists. We want law enforcement. No, we want law-abiding enforcement. We don't want injustice and race soldiers in our neighborhood giving us the guns to kill each other. They never talk about where the guns come from. Anyway, let's go on. My program about to run out. Let me move on down the road here. Let's get Kamal off here. Okay, let's stop sharing the screen. Let's go to the next sharing screen. Okay. Let's talk about let's get her on here. Now this is your educated. This is your attorney. And Jason Black said that if you want to know the truth about a black person, you set him in front of a white person. So here we go. Let's see what Jasmine Crockett got to say.
Appreciate it. You're a state representative, and now you are running for Congress. Why is that, and what are your priorities?
Absolutely. First of all, it's good to see you in the new year. You know, no one could have told me that when I went down to Austin, now it looks like a little bit over a year ago, that I would be running for Congress. It's just not what my plan was. But what I've always decided is that I would step up when there was a need. And so I fully anticipated that our Congresswoman would serve out at least one more term, if not more than one term, in Congress. But when she called me and said, I think it's time for me to retire, and you're the one that I believe should take my seat, I really was kind of caught off guard. I didn't anticipate that. If anyone knows anything about the Congresswoman, they know that she had been talking about retirement for quite some time. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I just got to Austin and I had to meet 5 people to get here. I don't know about this. It's a huge responsibility. You know, the congressional seat is over 4 times as large as my House seat. And I was just starting to get into the rhythm of doing constituent services and things like that. And then there was someone that talked to me and said, in fact, a former ambassador in the Clinton administration, he said, Jasmine, what you have to realize is that if you are really going to make change, it's not going to be in the Texas House. He said, you did a great job playing defense, but you have a chance to play offense. At least you know on the federal level that the management, so to speak, changes. It's not just always one party that has everything. And he said, if you really want to make real change, you really need to consider it. And I thought about that along with all the other people that said, if the Congresswoman retires, you're the person that's been the face of voting rights in Texas. You're the person that said, we've got to take this fight to DC. You're the person that has been there as it relates to repo rights, all these things that sadly enough, the state of Texas is leading the rest of the country the way down. You have been the voice of opposition on those things and you understand legislation. This is what you've got to do. And so as far as I'm concerned, I tell people all the time that it was a calling, literally and figuratively, for me to run for Congressional District 30 and to take my service to the next level.
So how long did it take for you to make this decision once you got the call from Congresswoman Johnson and others to decide, okay, I'm doing this?
Yeah, so this is a combo question. So people started talking to me when we were in DC. I mean,
they pick and select who they need to how can I say, convince or to make Black people think, oh, we got a Black representative. Now, this was, I think that her boss was Bernice Johnson, or the lady who chose her. Now, these people are LGBTQ. These are sorority girls and fraternity girls, right? They meet each other at different brunch and dinners and conferences and parties and freak shows and stuff like that. And so they look around and say, who can we get to manipulate the Black people again? Because Bernice was doing it for a long time. So now they got to get somebody else to continue the tradition to keep Black people behind. So what they go do, they pick something like this. Let's move it on up. Let me move it on up a little bit. Then I'm going to go to the next. Yeah. I want to try to get her. Let's see what she say right about here.
She texted me and she said, did you file for re-election yet? And I said, no. And she said, good. She said, I just landed. I'll be home in about an hour. Well, I had a gala to attend. And another candidate that's running for judge said, I'm so excited. And I was like, great. You know, and she goes, no, I'm excited because I know your secret. And I was like, I don't know what secret you know. And she said, well, it's my understanding that tomorrow the Congresswoman will announce her retirement and that she's endorsing you. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I was like, where did you get that from? And she was like, well, I hear that Cori Bush said it. And I was like, what? And so I stepped away from the gala to go ahead and make the call to the Congresswoman. And I said, there's a candidate that is of the impression that you are going to retire tomorrow and announce that you're.
So see, she was selected to deceive us. Okay? This is what they do. Let me stop sharing. Let me go to the next one. And I'm running over time. So y'all just bear with me. Speakers. This is what Malcolm X think about it. Let's go over here. And we're going to end it with what Malcolm X say. That this is what they do. And hopefully one day we'll be in this thought process as people.
Then the black man will think like a black man, and he will feel for other black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause black people to stick together. And then at that point, you'll have a situation where when you attack one black man, you are attacking all black men. And this type of black thinking will cause all black people to stick together. And this type of thinking also will bring an end to the brutality inflicted upon black people by white people. And it is the only thing that will bring an end to it. No federal court, state court, or city court will bring an end to it. It's something that the black man has to bring an end to himself. Being friendly and being a friend, I think, are two different things. I think there are many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox acts friendly toward the lamb. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chop in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that
I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro, who actually differs from the white conservative in the same way that the fox differs from the wolf. Their appetite is the same. Their motives are the same. It's only their mannerisms and methods that differ. I'm suspicious of whites who join Negroes and always have to be in the lead, who always have to be the head, who always have to be at the top in Negro organizations. Those whites who really have the interest of blacks at heart, let them give some advice to some Negroes and stand on the sideline, but don't join the organization and then get at the head of it and pose as a friend of Negroes.
Well, I think that today,
I'm going to end it right there. Thank y'all for joining me. Come back, check me out. I will have more information, more things to talk about. Everything black, black issues. Thank you for joining me. Support, like, and share, and subscribe.